G'day guys, Mark here from Agrowplow, here today with Richard in the Margaret River region of Western Australia. Standing in front of an Ap31 deep ripper, which has been configured for the specific vineyard scenario. So I'd just like to introduce Richard, and he's just going to have a chat about the configuration of the machine and I guess what it achieves for here.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Look, we're looking at something with a heavier frame. We've got some really mixed soil conditions here at this vineyard, or across 3 sites we run over here in WA. So really something that's got a nice sturdy frame, which the Ap31 lent itself to, and then obviously rather than the rigid machine, preferred the hydraulic option. Fair bit of subsoil rock and that sort of thing around about the coast too. So the ability to sort of dump over them with this rather than constantly changing pins all the time.
How would you describe the soil?
This here is a clay loam, sort of duplex clay loam, where we've got a bit of gravel underneath.
Yeah.
And with that gravel, got a bit of that parent material sort of just scattered amongst it too. So yeah, you get a few rocks in amongst the place, but we've also got quite a bit of sand over clay, and then there's some sort of heavier clays at the front of the property there. So a real mix.
Yep.
And having that ability to sort of cater for all of those is
Fairly versatile being the hydraulic machine.
Absolutely.
Having to get out.
Absolutely.
And the width, that's important.
Yeah. So really, what we're trying to achieve here is fussing up both hard bands that developed from years and years of traffic up and down the road, so from the wheel tracks. So we want to be able to really get into that it's around that sort of 1.6, 1.7 meters width from the tracks, the tractors and sprayers and whatnot. So and look, really just focusing initially on those wheel tracks, and trying to get the depth and trying to get that bust up that band that's below our wheel tracks there.
Yep. Well, we might go over and have a little bit of a look at the job it does. Initially, we'll just have a look at one of the rows that hasn't been picked. I just thought I'd explain the condition that we're in, how much moisture is or isn't there. And
It's pretty dry. We haven't had rain here since October, so probably the driest season I think I've ever seen here. And people who've been in the neighbourhood a lot longer than I have certainly said the same thing. So, and look, where are we now? We're mid-April. Usually we wouldn't have harvested this block, and we picked it 3 weeks ago. So, we're well ahead of where we normally would be. And the soil's pretty dry. Like, I was pretty apprehensive when you had bring this machine in here. And I think ideally we'd like to see a bit more moisture, but we've sort of got to start somewhere. So from what I've seen, it's certainly busting good enough.
So we'll just move on, guys, into the job that it's actually doing. You can see there's a lot of shatter, which we're really, really happy with. Richard also has an option of sweeps, which bolts back the shank assembly. If we want to increase that side shatter, increase the width of the trough at the bottom, and in turn, I guess, getting a better result. But currently the conditions probably aren't allowing us to do that. Over 6 months without any rain, and I guess it's an achievement to be able to be ripping at 450 mil deep, which we've been able to achieve. I guess, Richard, how would you describe what the job that it's done, and I guess what that equals for the plant itself?
Yeah, look, it's I think it's pretty impressed with, particularly given how dry it is, pretty impressed with what we've been able to achieve with it. And really, that's allowing that. We're just heading into a period now where we're going to have a lot of root growth, and that's refreshing that root growth, allowing it to get past that pan, both in depth and lateral root growth. So that's really going to help, particularly these young vines. I mean, these vines are now only 6 years old, so yes, it's really going to work well in this block. I think a 20-year-old block that we've redeveloped, and coming through and sort of somewhat retrospectively, but I think it's gonna do a pretty good job through this block.
Yep. And per plant, do we hope to have an increase in yield?
Oh, look, overall, that's the whole objective of it. So increasing root zone area, and then basically availability of moisture and nutrient. That comes back to an increase in yield. So so we'll keep going. For us, this is the first sort of time we're really playing with this, but a lot of science says that we should be able to achieve a pretty decent result.
Yep. No, that's really good. Thanks to Richard. Also thank Agrowplow for all their support out of the Bustleton branch, in particular Paul, salesman there. And I think overall, given the current conditions that we're in this area of the Margaret River, it's a really positive result and a really, really good outcome. We'll follow this one into the future, catch up with Richard later on down the track and see how it's all going. So see you next time, guys.